guys, welcome to ThisWeekInGeek.net's Prototype. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as we finally bring our E3 coverage 2021 to a close. I'm joined with Alex and Ken, and this is an E3 I could have given less of a shit about. Mostly because I'm on a lot of painkillers and I just don't care. This is the very quickly. This is an E3 I gave no shits about. Almost nothing was going to blow up my skirt.
There was more to watch. Like, somehow there was more to watch this year than there was last year. And I mean, I guess
this year's better organized.
No, it wasn't.
No, like last year, it was spread out a lot more. So those few days where I had to watch 5 hours of streams were spread out over the course of 3 months. This was, I swear to God, I must have watched 20 hours of streams.
I don't understand how you can watch all the Japanese indie stuff, the PC gaming show, future game. Like, oh my God, just put it in 1 or 2 presentations over 3 days, call it a day.
And
I think what was worse was the fact,
too.
Yeah, the repeats. The repeats this year were enormous. Like we saw, let's see, I think we saw Lake a lot. We saw, what was the other weird ones? It's just like,
well, did you know that Homeworld 4 is coming?
What?
Oh God, that was so annoying.
Gearbox showed the same trailer 4 times
for Tiny Tina or whatever.
No,
for Homeworld.
What the fucking do?
It was all it was a different person on the dev team saying how they're happy that it's coming, and to the point where they aired actually 2 of them. I think like they aired one, showed another trailer, and then aired the same trailer again, and all it was 15 seconds of it's coming. It's like, we don't fucking care. That's a 20-year-old franchise that you have no gameplay to show of, and you're just like, yeah. Anyway, the other one that they showed, like you said, there were some that were repeated for no reason. I don't know if I ever want to see anything from Gearbox ever again, because everything that they showed was repeated over every single game presentation.
The only thing that remotely got my attention from Gearbox is that expansion or side game, whatever it is, the new Borderlands. All right, sure, why not? I still haven't played 3, but I really enjoyed 2 and all the DLC.
I'll tell you right now, 3 plays pretty good on next gen. I paid $10 at Boxing Day to get the PS4 version because that gave you a free copy of the PS5 version. And played for about 3 hours and then got bored because Borderlands is a boring franchise now. It's just like it's too much of the same loop. Like, no, there hasn't been a gameplay improvement since the first game. It's the same thing over and over and over again. This Tiny Tina one looks more interesting because it sounds like the narrative will change as you play. So again, promises are promises.
It was literally the best part of 2's DLC.
Which I still haven't played. Like I played 2, the initial game. I think I got 50% through the game on PC when it first launched. The game glitched out and I spawned at the end of the game, beat the boss, and then I was like, what do I do now? I could go back and do all the rest of the game that I didn't do, but it glitched me to the end of the game. Like, literally, I got knocked back through. I got knocked into like the ground, and then it went blah, 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 and it like spawned me right at the end of the game. And I was like, "What the fuck?" And that was, how long ago did that game come out? Over 10 years now.
Over 10 years, yeah.
Yeah. So and I haven't touched it since. So
I have so many golden keys on my PlayStation 3 account for that game, and I got 90% through it. Then I had to do my review of it. But I loved all the DLC. I had a lot of fun with it.
But that Tiny Tina one sounds like they're going to be changing the narrative. So, like, if you're beating a boss and you beat it too fast, she'll go, no, that's not what happened. This happened, and then the boss will change. Like for instance, you'll kill a boss, and then it was too quickly that you killed the boss, and then she'll go, well, actually, the boss had wings, and the boss will now reappear with wings and fly around.
See,
and stuff.
It would be really interesting if the game's intelligence was smart enough to realize when you were hacking or fucking with the game. If you were OP for that boss, if the game reacted to you, that would impress the hell out of me. Annoy the hell out of me, but impress me.
Well, I believe that's how, like, again, it's speculation because anything that they say it can do, until we actually see it happening, I don't believe a word they're saying.
Yeah, until then it's words on a sheet. Yeah,
right now it sounds like their plan is to make it adaptive so that if you, let's say you're having a really hard time with a boss, and it's taking you way too long to beat them. So go, this is taking too long. So now the boss had 5 health, and it'll just automatically make it so that you can kill the boss. Like you could, like, that idea of having an adaptive gameplay style would be neat. I just don't know if they can implement it the way they say they're going to.
Isn't that something that they wanted to push on this kind of generation among other games? They were like talking about adaptive difficulties.
Yeah, where they could have a median set in the new games where it's like, hey, we've done some testing with our play testers. It should take about 5 minutes to beat this boss. And when you're at like the 7 or 8 minute mark, it could go, okay, we're going to scale the difficulty down because obviously you're having too hard of a time.
Mm-hmm.
And there are going to be game modes where you can be like, turn that off. But for the average player, and I'm not saying casual, I'm saying average user would be happy with that. If it's like, nobody wants to play a boss for longer than they have to, especially if it's just annoying where you're chipping away at it.
Yeah.
Like, there are some masochists that think that's cool and they want to
Nobody
spend 3 hours.
Nobody wants bullet sponges.
Like, exactly. Some people want to spend 10 hours doing it because they have nothing better to do with their life. But
here's the thing. People buy the way people buy games. People will just buy a single game and play that for forever.
Yep.
That's why these companies are putting out these big open world games, because people will just buy this single game for the year, and that covers their whole year of gaming, because they're just going to play the fuck out of it.
Like all the friends and family I have always been of the mindset of, we end up playing an average of 5 games per year is probably a safe bet. Yeah. But the vast, like the friends I've made in my life and the family that I have, and just, I guess, similar minds, grouped together, we've always been, I guess, the outliers, because apparently it's normal for some people to have only 5 games for their entire console ever.
Yeah.
And all I can think of is, like, I would never, even as a kid, like, I would have never thought, why would you only want 5 games over the course of an entire life cycle for a system? But that's apparently the average is about 3 to 5 games attached to a system, which is why they're going for these Game Pass type things, because even if you're like, well, how can it work if I'm only spending $16 a month? That could be like 3 games a month I'm beating on there.
These companies want that evergreen money.
Yeah, what they're counting on is, well, if they only ever buy 3 or 4 games for over a 7-year life cycle, then we've got, and we get them to pay $16 a month. We've got them technically paying for 5 times that of what they would have spent on the console.
Right.
So I can see, like, it's about bringing that average money up. They know they're going to lose money off of gamers like us. They're going to lose a ton of money, because I'm never buying an Xbox title ever again. Like, why would I? I mean, there's no incentive ever.
I mean, the only thing that I would possibly do, especially with the upcoming list, is like if Halo Infinite has a decent collector's.
Maybe.
Like, if it has a decent collector's edition, I might pick that up. But other than that, no, I'm just going to stick with Game Pass.
There are so many times in the last 2 years I've been turned off of buying collector's editions now because of stuff like Game Pass and everything. Because honestly,
it depends.
I just want the game now. And Alex is kind of drilled into my head, you don't need stuff. Yeah, and I'm the guy that passed on Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I wanted that cash edition so badly. You have no idea.
Yeah. But I passed for me, my biggest thing is soundtracks. I want the music. Like,
I want digital goodies.
You give me the music, I will buy your collector's edition. It's just kind of my addicting. That's my addiction, is keeping music.
Microsoft titles never come with the soundtrack, though. So
yeah, that's the thing. They rarely do. Like they will sell it piecemeal later.
like NAS America, like basically 100%
Atlas.
of the physical editions.
Atlas is really good at doing that, but though Atlas sometimes will screw you over and give you
a sample disc,
give you a sample, or in the case of Strikers, force you to load a separate application,
which is so weird. I could never figure that out. I'm like, why would you take space on my hard drive?
Sony's been doing that, and
digital art books I'm not a big fan of.
The only ones I've been okay with digital wise, where you get a digital soundtrack, I think it was Detroit Become Human. Don't quote me. It was either that, there was another first party title for Sony where
Infamous, maybe,
where you put, once you downloaded it, you could put a USB stick in and it would let you make a copy of the MP3s to the stick.
I want to say Killzone did that or something, because I vaguely remember Killzone 3.
Like, you could listen to everything in lossless audio through their app, and it was like it would play through like DTS and everything. Or if you wanted something that you could put on your MP3 player, you could get it that way. And because they know, I mean, they have to know that, like, the digital soundtrack, people are going to get pissed because the whole point of it is so you can listen to it portably.
Mm-hmm. and if that's the case, you can just stream the thing from Spotify.
Exactly. So I've seen that where they'll give you MP3s now because they know people are, if they're not going to give them to you, people are going to pirate them. So
I mean, that's what I do with Strikers. So
yeah, like, well, and the way I've looked at it is, in some cases when they give you a digital copy like that, it's like, well, I guess I'll source another means for when I go on the go, because here's my licensed copy that is only good if I have my system on and have headphones plugged in here. Like, it's useless. But yeah, like that's there's been a lot of weirdness going on when it comes to digital copies and stuff and ownership. And we're not going to really get into that here. Otherwise, it would be way too long to talk about. But let's just very briefly go over, like, E3 was not E3 this year. E3,
no, it was, let's try and pretend that that we're still relevant.
Well, even last year when E3 didn't exist because of their own stupidity, we're going to run a digital event. And then, like, was it a week later? They're like, we actually don't know how, so we're not going to run one. Like, they didn't know how to do it at all. So last year, we thought last year that there would be a big E3 this year, and I thought so too, because there'd be a lot of stuff carried forward from what didn't get shown last year. The reality was, last year everything we saw was pretty much ready to go, right? And also last year was always going to be better because it was a new console year.
Yep.
So we were going to 2 new consoles, so we were going to see it more there. If you take away the stuff that was ready to go for the consoles, and remember, a lot of those games got pushed even to, like, next year even. So what we saw last year was all hype and amazing, but sure, if you take away the stuff that isn't out yet, it was a kind of a weak year, other than the fact that we had new hardware. But there's even less this year to show. Tons of indie stuff, tons and tons of indie stuff that was developed at home.
I guarantee you 2022 is going to be just as worse.
Yeah, because
in terms of what we're getting.
Yeah, like, honestly, nobody's in offices, which, makes sense.
Not here.
Also in the States, most developers here in the States are just saying, no, we're not going back in the office this year.
Japan is in a weird state where
Japan's a clusterfuck.
Their COVID situation is becoming third world.
They're in a state of emergency with less than 10% of the population immunized.
It's low. It's the lowest of all the G7 and G8 and all that.
And it's funny because half of their Olympic workers said nope and noped off the job last month.
Yeah.
Well, that's because the Olympic Committee is a bunch of asshats. But
yeah. Well, plus the fact the as Alex has kind of explained their situation with COVID sucks. Yet everybody wears a mask anyway.
They actually have, and they're having it's 50-50. Like, they have higher hesitancy than their government was expecting to happen, like significantly more. That just don't want to get it or don't feel the need to get it. It's like, because their government's been wishy-washy, and it's partially because of the Olympic situation. If the government there was just like, no, we're not doing the Olympics, like, that would send the message that, hey, you've got to get your vaccination. But they're just like, nah. I don't get it. It's like maybe because they had such an easy first wave in comparison that they just were like, no, it's not a big deal. And then now all those variants are there, so they're all like actually dying. And it's like, oh god. But they're in a situation where they finally adapted to work from home, and it's going to be a while till they go to normal. But Europe's basically returned to normal when it comes to to how they code and everything. So any European based game is probably on schedule now for next year or whatever they're going to show. And then any smaller title here, actually, any of the bigger studios in Canada, I don't know how it's working in the States. By now, they're completely adapted to work from home. So
here in the States, a lot of them have adapted to work from home. It's still gonna affect productivity, obviously, but they've adapted pretty well at this point.
Yeah. So I mean, it was always going to be a bit of a weird year, but if you look, about 90% of what was announced was indie titles. And, and I mean, out of the hours, and I'm not trying to be disparaging to anybody who made the games. 90% of what we saw across all of the indie platform showcases, 90% is shovelware. And like everybody's going to be able to find this is, and again, it's my opinion. Everybody's going to be able to find something they like, but there's a lot of crap. Like art is art, but I'm sorry, there is a lot of crappy art out there. And there was a lot of stuff that was shown where I'm like, this would never ever be shown at E3 normally. And not in a, oh my god, wow, we found a bunch of hidden gems that E3 would have never shown. Like there's a lot of stuff that doesn't like stand up to scrutiny, but they're putting it there because there was nothing else to showcase.
I know you guys didn't touch any of the demos. I touched a handful of them.
I touched a few the last few days, and I would say 90% of those demos from the Xbox ID, whatever it was, 90% of that is ugh.
Yeah, a lot of them were bad. A lot. I had the two that stood out. One was I played like four of them, but on the Xbox, two of them were standouts, and one of those two was a little. I could see the jank happening. And that was specifically Sable. Like I found that there was a little janky in terms of keeping the textures stable.
Frame rate. Bad
and
frame
and
rate,
then the frame rate too. And then I also had issues like the camera. The camera was a little janky because it was hitting geometry.
It's the game that looks like for Mike, if you probably don't know, it looks like Studio Ghibli's Nausicaa, but
I know what you're talking about.
It's the one where they had at the was it not the Game Awards, at the kickoff, they had the musical performer perform in quotes and definitely not lip sync to a song while that game was in the background. And the game looks great on paper. It looks better in the trailer than it does in the actual person. It looks rough.
As it plays, it's just like, this is a little jank.
Like 15 frames per second on a Series X.
What I will say is Tunic.
It's too hard.
Is that Souls. That Fox game?
Yeah, it's straight up Souls. It's straight up a Souls game.
It's absolutely beautiful and charming and whimsical. Way too hard. I'm not saying that as a, oh my god, too hard. I got to get good. I'm saying too hard for there's a disconnect in that it appears
it looks like it's going to be easy. No.
It looks like it's going to appeal to a lot of children, and then those children are going to be very mad when they can't beat it.
They're going to be screaming betrayal from the fucking rooftop.
To the point where they'll turn it off, and there's going to be very many people that never beat the game and are very mad at the creator because you've got to find that balance.
The original pitch didn't indicate the Souls-like feel of it.
Yeah,
and even the first demo that I played last year didn't indicate that Souls-like.
He's going to have to make a version you turn on that is like there are going to be people that would actually want to play the version of that game where you're just invincible. Like there are people that just want to explore, that don't care about the challenge, especially if you've got young kids. This looks like it could be an introduction to a Zelda type game, and it's actually going to turn a lot of people off from how difficult it is.
Yeah, 100%. I was really playing that second demo. I was really surprised.
Yeah, the first 5 minutes you can play, but once you go into a dungeon and you got like turrets and exploding things, and you got a health meter, but if everything's one-shotting you or two-shotting you, it's no longer fun.
Yeah, it's like 2-3 shots. And you're dead.
And then the cupcake RPG,
which I knew it was going to be a pretty early ass demo.
Yeah, that sounds interesting to me. That I'll openly say.
But the humor is really spot on.
Yeah, what's missing is the music feels very placeholdery. There's no
90% of that. 90% of that demo is very placeholdery.
Yeah, there's no special effects sounds at all, and
it's early. It's an early demo.
It feels slow to move,
but it also says pre-alpha. They don't even have the game in alpha state yet. So
yeah, so I mean that was again a lot of these are the demos they're showing off, and it's like great. I'd like to see it in 3 years when it's done.
Yeah, pretty much.
So like that, and if we go back, we had a lot of pre-E3 stuff that wasn't really E3 that we talked about. That why didn't Sega have their Sega showcase during E3? Because why didn't they everything that was shown at the Sonic thing? I'll say this: 90% of what was shown.
I would have been more happy if Sega was part of E3 than watching some of the other bullshit.
Yeah, like the Sega, the Dragon Quest thing should have just been part of the Square Enix presentation, so that we would have had more to watch that made sense and people could have been happy about.
They wanted hype.
There was more exciting things in the Dragon Quest presentation than there was in the Square Enix presentation.
That's fucking depressing.
And the Sonic one should have just been part of the kickoff with Jeff Keighley, since he already has they were like, we've got the Sonic orchestra playing music. Why did they just have all the Sonic announcements during that showcase? There was a lot.
I would have squeezed them in with the Nintendo showcase.
That's not necessarily the right spot for it, because even though they have,
they're really pushing. Sega's really pushing multi-plat.
Yeah, so I mean, there's that. There was the Ubisoft. There was not Ubisoft. There was the PlayStation thing beforehand. PlayStation had no presence at all.
That's because they're at odds with the ASA.
Yeah, but you'd think they'd want to have, when all eyes are on E3, they'd want to have something to show. But
no, they want all eyes on them only.
Death Stranding on PS5 isn't going to do it, son.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of crap before E3 that had some exciting moments. We thought maybe would be like, oh, this is a tease of what's to come. And in fact, a lot of that was better than what the actual E3 was. The kickoff show we talked about briefly before. It was basically the Elden Ring, and that was it.
Elden Ring really was the biggest pop-off moment of that whole thing. Overall, I think it was fine. It was a fine showcase of some stuff that we ended up seeing more of later on.
Over and over and over again. And Elden Ring, still, the graphics look bad. And I never was like, oh, FromSoft always makes bad-looking games. Well, then stop making games. If your game looks that bad, and it's like, oh, no, this looks better than their previous games. But
it does.
It looks last gen. Everything, because
it's also multi gen.
Yeah,
it's also a multi-gen game too.
I'm so tired of these six or 7 year life cycles where they're developing a game. You know what? Don't show us anything. Don't give us a tease until it's ready. And I'm sure it's going to play well on next gen. But you know what it's going to play like? It's going to play like a crappy Souls game that has terrible controls, because all Souls games have terrible controls. That's just what the design is. Hinder yourself so that you can make the harder it is to control, the more satisfying it is when you win. Fuck you.
I've never agreed with that particular design philosophy. I don't get it. I mean, getting the shit kicked out of you is not fun.
I'll say this. I don't want to don't get it twisted. It's not that I think, okay, it has bad graphics, as in bad fidelity. It has good art design. I'll give it that. It's very intriguing, but in this day and age, it looks like
the barrier to entry on Souls games is too much for a certain type of player.
It's too much for me, and I've had almost all of them.
And it looks like this has more story, which is interesting.
I mean, it's GURM, so yeah, of course it's going to be.
Yeah. So I mean, it looks. I like the detail. I like it has a very unique, it's a dark fantasy take on things, but also very vibrant and colorful and interesting. And I'll say this. Ooh, look! Like graphics wise, they finally entered 2014. Like that's just sort of. It looks very 2014. Like
early Xbox One.
See, I look at it and go, "Oh, Infamous Second Son looks better than that," and that game's like 8 years old. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to be.
I get you.
I'm not trying to be a graphics snob at all, but like when I already know the gameplay is going to be something I hate, well, give me something else to be excited about. And especially when I see that, and then I see Demon Souls from Bluepoint, and I'm like, why does From Software make anything anymore if smaller companies make better versions of their own games?
Yeah, I think because we're all in on the next gen at this point.
Yeah.
Everyone here on this panel is all in on next gen. I think this next year is going to be a little more painful for us because we're sitting on these very powerful consoles and the games aren't using them.
Yeah, like and the reason people are like, oh, when they see games out now that do say that utilize it, again, air quotes here, they're just brute forcing back compat games or unlocking frame rates, or even the games sometimes when they say they're enhanced for next gen, all it is unlocking the frame rate.
We're getting Plague's Tale 1 4K 60 when it didn't run very well in the first place.
It was 1440 30 trying to obtain that, and it didn't usually do it. So we're
Plague's
unlocking
Tale 1 is just going to brute force it.
Yeah, what they're doing is they're not actually taking advantage of the feature set that you can do on these consoles. Like even more exciting looking games that are coming out from first party companies aren't going to be able to utilize it right away. The new Forza Horizon that was announced, it's not actually using ray tracing except in the mode where you're just looking at the cars. There's a mode, was it like Vista mode? I was like, what the fuck is that? I looked it up. It's literally when you're like having it in a center of like, it's loading a car you can't drive and then having the camera mode where you zoom around it to look at it.
So it's photo mode.
Yes.
Who gives a shit?
And they're not using it in the game itself because of it can't handle it. It's like, well, what the fuck? The entire point of this generation was to utilize that mode. But the realization is we're probably 2 to 3 years away from games having, like, with the exception, with one exception here, with the exception of the team behind Ratchet and Clank, Miles Morales, and that, they have found a way to do, on the PlayStation, have where they a mode where it's basically half of the ray tracing settings and still obtaining 60 frames per second. And interestingly enough, those modes are, at least to my eye, and I pretty indistinguishable from the full ray tracing mode, because I can't go back to playing games at 30 frames per second anymore. I just can't.
Welcome to the world of PC gaming, where we've been dealing with this shit for forever.
Mike, Final Fantasy.
I still need to get that loaded up.
It defaults to the frame rate mode, to the fidelity mode. Switch that shit right away to the new performance mode. It looks 10 times better than the original version of the game did anyway. And you can never go back. Everything looks blurry.
Once you go 60, you never go back.
I prefer
so
60
blurry
for shooters.
No, 60 for shooters is a must.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the snob who needs 120. But...
No, the only games where I'm cool with 30 now are like adventure titles where like when like Life is Strange True Colors comes out, I don't care if that's 30. It's a cinematic game. Like games where you don't need to be moving or act, like where there's no action, or a turn-based RPG would, like Persona, would be perfectly fine at 30. There would be no issues, especially if it's like hand-drawn animation and stuff. It's just you can't go back anymore with racing and fighting and shooters and action RPGs. You just can't do it. So there it's going to be very interesting for the next little bit before we actually like
get into next gen.
Yeah, and there's really only a couple studios that are doing it right now, and again, they're all on the PlayStation, because we've seen nothing on Xbox that's really truly next gen. Even that the Medium game was done by a third party company, and that's coming to PS5 now too. I'd be interested to see, what's different. In fact, it's probably going to play better because you'll have the haptic controls and all that crazy stuff.
Yeah, probably. But like, there's still some good. As much as we are ripping on Microsoft, they did the best presentation this year.
Yeah. So we'll jump forward. There was not a whole lot. Netflix announced a bunch of Ubisoft titles. There's a Splinter Cell TV show coming out where it looks like they're using Michael Ironside as the model for the character.
I think they announced something about the Assassin's Creed series.
Yeah,
or at least who the writer is.
There's a bunch more stuff there, and again, we don't really care about it. No word on the Witcher series.
Witcher.
No, they just showed
Witcher just wrapped.
Yeah,
I think Witcher.
No,
season 2 just wrapped.
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't The Witcher. I meant
Cyberpunk. Yeah,
Cyberpunk. Yeah, Cyberpunk is also because the animation industry in Japan got hit hard by COVID.
Yeah,
like there is, like, just to point this out, My Hero Academia was supposed to come out in the fall of last year. Like, that was the plan, to release it in the fall of last year. Then COVID hit, and they had to move it.
Yeah, that's like the biggest show right now.
Yeah. Like, the animation industry in Japan is crippled.
It's it's rough when, like, my show Black Clover had, I think, 3 weeks where they had no episodes.
Yep.
which is a show that was weekly for the last like 3 years straight.
Yeah.
So they ran
One Piece had to go on hiatus.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's like episode 900?
They're almost at 1,000, yeah.
Which I can't.
They'll hit episode 1,000 sometime next year.
And Pokemon, same thing, something like that, right? Like,
yeah, Pokemon also had to go on hiatus.
Like, when you get these shows like that where the voice actors like eventually age out of the role, it's funny. But yes, so we had that. What was the Friday? There was nothing really there. Saturday, Ubisoft. They showed us very little as far as new games. They showed us a heck of a lot of Far Cry, and I'm not so sure that was a good idea, because talk about a lot of last gen looking syndrome on that game. All of the character animations and the character models look last gen. Scenery looks next gen though.
The only thing that I will say, I am happy that Ubisoft finally kind of turned its head on the whole, this isn't political thing, because they started, smart people started spinning it because they're talking about slavery and stuff, and Ubisoft's like, slavery, they don't have a comment on slavery, and that completely they completely changed their tune after that.
Yeah, and I would think the bigger announcement from all this was two things I took away. One, you get a little puppy dog that's a amputee Warhammer puppy dog that helps you blow
Chorizo,
people up.
My God, I want that collector's edition just for the dog statue.
Which is
so
what,
ridiculous.
They're one of the few big companies that makes these collector's editions that they know exactly what to market. Nobody cares about like a random giant statue of a monster, but if you got a double war amp puppy that carries around your duct tape and dynamite for you,
Yeah.
sure. There's that, and the expansion pass, which again, usually people are like, I want to know if the game is good or not before I get an expansion pass. Their expansion pass includes playing as all the villains from the previous games,
which people are gonna go right to the Voss campaign immediately.
Yeah.
And on top of that, they're redoing Blood Dragon.
Which fucking that alone, day one.
Didn't say though if it's like a full 4K remaster. It just said it's that version. But isn't that game locked to like PS3 and 360 because of how old it is?
You can play it on Xbox One via backwards compatibility. I think
just not. PlayStation.
It is on the list for backwards compatibility,
but not PlayStation, obviously. So if you're getting the PS5 or PS4 version, this is the way to do it, I guess. And I like the idea that, from what it appears to be, is you're playing, I guess, replaying key moments from those games from their perspective, and you get to see into the psyche of their madness, of what they see the world like.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of cool. That is a way to pull people in to get a season's pass, because they already like those characters. They already know what it's going to be like. We had some leaks this year that turned out to be true. The Kingdom Battle sequel was probably best in show from Ubisoft.
Yeah, and also the fact that Rosa Rabbit is completely meme queen.
Yeah, and battle system in that, they moved to the more Valkyria Chronicles style, where you can move anywhere within a grid. No more, they're not locked to like little squares anymore. So they're making it more accessible, and they're smart, making it halfway between what we saw with Kingdom Battle and then Mario Galaxy.
South Park, maybe?
What's Mario Galaxy? You're hopping from planet to planet.
Oh, okay.
So that's neat. Nobody gives a crap about Avatar.
Yeah, that's a game that should have come out maybe 2012.
Well, they did make a Avatar game.
Yeah, I know, because I covered it back at Sony's 2009 press event, and I was like, all right, this game is cool. It actually played. I actually had a lot of fun with it.
Well, I think also this Avatar game suffered from the fact that they kept delaying the movie.
Well, for fuck's sakes. I mean, I saw somebody talk on a forum saying we're going to see something for Skull and Bones this year. Jesus Christ, that's a vaporware game. Or Beyond Good and Evil. Hey, surprised we never saw that.
Yeah, well, Beyond Good and Evil was always vaporware.
I'm surprised we didn't see something more for the DLC for Assassin's Creed or Watch Dogs Legion, other than the fact, hey, Aiden Pierce and Wrench are back, which is cool.
Well, there was an announcement, and they were subtle about it. There is no Assassin's Creed game this year.
Yeah, they're going to take a year off.
Yeah, they're you know how they announced it? The announcement was, hey, we've got DLC coming for a second year.
Which is kind of cool. I mean,
but that's
Valhalla's huge.
But that was a way of skirting around it, right?
Yeah. We're not gonna get an Assassin's Creed for another 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Which
we're not getting
messaging.
Fine.
We're not getting one till at least next year, maybe longer.
No, they're not gonna cannibalize Valhalla DLC.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the next game will be. They had talked about wanting to change the style because they know that they were getting diminishing returns from the giant open world stuff.
Yeah,
and they might be going a route of, a TikTok cycle. Like the one game will be the open world style, and then in 2 to 3 years you get the one that's more of
action
the traditional
focus.
narrative, and then so they can have that live service thing going. Think what they're doing with Rainbow Six Siege.
That's literally what Ubisoft has said in like earlier this year during their investors meeting. They're gonna double down on these live service type games.
Yeah, what that doesn't mean though, but people assume that means we don't get any other type of game. Well, no, what they're doing is, look at Rainbow Six is in year 6. They have a 10-year plan for it. Yeah. And we're getting another Rainbow Six game at the same time. So that's what they're going to do, is to fuel the rest of the company. They're going to have these live service games because they know they can have them, but they also now realize that every single iteration of their games can't be that, because they'll cannibalize their own audience. So you have your Rainbow Six Siege, you have your Valhalla, and then when they do another Assassin's Creed, it might be a shorter 30-hour game that they can produce cheaper, faster, and still support the other games, the larger games. So that's a smarter way of doing it. Then we move forward into Sunday, which was the Xbox showcase, and Starfield. They didn't really show us anything. Like, they showed us the thing with Xbox was there was a lot of showing us things but then not actually showing us things.
Yeah. I will say there's a couple of things that I know you guys didn't watch it. I watched it, so you didn't have to. But on Thursday, Xbox did a second showcase of stuff. One of the big things that came out of that was Hellblade 2. They specifically said they are making a proof of concept slice of the game before they go into full production. So that game is 3 years out. Easy.
It sounds like they're developing an engine and not actually making a game.
Well, no, they're using the new Unreal.
I know, but
they've already said that.
No, but you know what I'm saying? It sounds like they're customizing tools.
They're messing with tools and building tools
for
Unreal.
They're going to be forced to share amongst all the other studios within Microsoft.
Yeah, probably.
At the same time, I went and downloaded the first game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it.
Which game again?
It's not your jam. It's not your jam. I can tell you right now. Hellblade.
No, it's not my thing.
It's like, I'm playing a game where the main character is slowly slipping into schizophrenia. But she thinks it's like her Viking spirits talking to her.
That's interesting.
A nice idea. Only problem is the game's not that good. It looks pretty good, but it's not that great. Like, everybody's just like gushing over it like it's the second coming, but I'm like, it looked good, and the new game looks good, but I'm getting flashes of Cyberpunk vibes from this, where the final product is not going to be it's going to be a technical marvel compared to, I think.
Oh, it's always here's the thing, they are very much going like, look, it's not going to be as extensive as like a Cyberpunk. I don't think the folks on that team want it to be that.
No.
So
it's going to be very short. I think people are going to be surprised that
it's going to be 5-6 hours at most.
It's going to be like the Order 1886, like 3 hours of a campaign. And
also because it's on Game Pass.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's going to be that big of a hit.
They would be smart to not ever release a physical copy of it and to make it only Game Pass, because people will be pissed if it turns out that it's only like 3 hours long.
But it also probably won't be a full price game to begin with.
Yeah. So it is kind of funny that was what they led their entire reveal of their console with. And we're looking at probably 2025 or 2026 for that game.
I'd be surprised if it shows up
before 2024.
Yeah. Another big thing they announced, hey, Design Lab's back. Whoop-de-doo.
Whoop-de-doo. It costs too much.
It costs too much for you guys up there for sure.
Yeah.
And they showed off more Psychonauts 2.
So don't care.
It's again downloaded the first.
I'm gonna play it.
Started playing it, and I'm like, yeah, quirky comedy. I get it. I get why it has its audience. I love me some platformers, but maybe I'm aged out of it.
Isn't Jack Black doing the voices for that game?
Jack Black is doing one of the villain voices.
Why was he not a part of the presentation?
Because
he's filming a movie that's more important.
He's fucking around on TikTok.
No. What his villain character is basically is very spoilery for the story. Yeah, that's why.
So yeah, it again, I'll play it. I don't have to pay for it, so I'll play it, and maybe it'll change my mind. But I tried the first game, and I was like,
And then the other
am I the only one that feels that their studio is entirely hyped out of proportion for what they are?
Oh, Double Fine, yeah. Double Fine has always lived off hype.
Like, I feel like I don't understand why people think they're so great. They're like Lionhead Studio was. I never understood why the Fable team was so revered.
The only other thing that I was distinctly pointing out is that everything that will be available on PC from Microsoft will also come to Steam,
which is interesting.
Yeah, they've officially they didn't outright say it, but literally everything that's coming to PC is also coming to Steam. They made a distinct point of saying that
because they realize that 90% of people don't like the Microsoft Store on the PC.
Sucks.
Well, some people can't even get it working.
Yeah,
like I've never had an issue, but I know
I have
plenty of people that
I've had it where I had to reformat my computer because there is a permanent glitch in Windows 10 that once something happens with the cache for it, no matter what you do, even wiping the cache out of it won't fix the store, and it will never load again. It is a known bug, and they've never fixed it in like 5 years. So it's literally
here's hoping Windows 11 fixes that.
Literally, the way to fix it is to format your whole computer, and it's like, oh my god, and that's a terrible solution. It's like all I want is Minecraft. You get people that are like So that was their showcase. Again, lots of neat stuff. Stuff that we're not going to see for years.
The fact that most stuff comes to Game Pass was a real win for them. The fact that they showed off Halo multiplayer, and they're like, hey, it's also free to play, and it's coming to PC. Huge win for them.
But I also feel like for our jobs, what we're doing is like, what is there to talk about when there's no point in reviewing games for Microsoft anymore.
Well, their PR strategy towards us as an outlet has changed. And I don't want to get too far behind the scenes here, but I have gotten steadily less access over the last year, 2 years, to the point where I am not getting as much communication as I would like.
Well,
and that's a big change if you followed TWIG since 2007.
Yeah, and it's not just us. Since Game Pass launched, they have the feeling of, why do we need to show anything to the press?
Well, they only go after the big sites now.
Yeah, they're only going after big boys.
Yep, or if you're a big YouTuber. There's a guy in Toronto that I like, and we were talking on Twitter, so if you want to find this conversation, you can. We're like, so you're not cool enough anymore to receive the influencer kit? Guess not. And yet all the other people get, and that's not jealousy speaking. Some of these people who get some of these influencer kits, I'm not going to outright say they're bought, but I'm not going to discount the possibility that their opinion is influenced. And I don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm going to not say that they're bought, but I will say that
they're disingenuous.
It's not even an implication or implied that, hey, they won't say anything negative. I'm saying that a lot of them are outright going to the press or to the companies, to the PR companies, and saying, hey, would you like me to say positive things about your stuff? I think it's the other way around. I think they are seeking them out.
I could see that.
And making propositions of what they'll say. They're becoming a third-party arm of the marketing wing of these companies. And
the snake has started to eat itself.
Yes. Yep. And it's becoming more noticeable. And this is not, we're not saying anything against Microsoft themselves, but no. I think their strategy is now similar to what I was thinking, in that, what is the point of reviewers for games that are released for free?
It's a good point, because like Halo 5 is going to come out this year. Sure, you're going to see reviews at a Kotaku and GameSpot and a few of the bigger channels on YouTube. But to the average journalist,
are we going to see them before they launch, or are they just going to not give press copies out until after Game Pass is out? It's out on Game Pass, because all they care about is getting that subscription for the month. They don't care what you use the subscription for. They only care that you subscribed.
Yeah, like I said, they're only going to give the game early to probably the top 20% of outlets.
Yeah.
Everybody else will be left out.
Or if we get a review copy, it'll
be after release.
Or it'll mean that we're getting a review copy because they know the game is good.
The last review copy I got from Microsoft, and this will surprise you, was Minecraft Dungeon. And when I blasted that game, I've not heard a word since.
Well,
the silence is deafening.
And if you look at the reviews were middling for it.
Yeah. And I even asked for the Xbox headset, didn't get a reply. Asked for the new Xbox adaptive controller, no response. Yet we talk with other companies, and there has been a change in the Canadian media landscape recently. Sony has decided they're doing their own PR now, and they've been okay to us, I think, because we got Ratchet and Clank, so that's something.
Yeah, well, there are the companies that have switched around. Like there's been a major shift because of the new consoles, I think.
Yeah, and Ubisoft has changed companies, but they're still good to us. So it's interesting to see where things are going with this console generation.
Yeah, basically Microsoft has decided that they don't need the same level of marketing for their games anymore because of Game Pass, and we're only going to see more of that. And my worry is that that will mean that it's possible to see the quality of their games go down.
I think it's an arrogant attitude to take.
Because I think it's a democratization of games.
Because think about this. What is stopping, like, they'll want a certain level of reputation because they will eventually see a cascading issue of if all of their games start performing crappily, then they're going to look bad. And then they would have to, and then people are going to stop subscribing. So they won't let it get that far. But there's a possibility always in the back of your mind of maybe they'll just Bethesda everything in that it doesn't have to be ready or if it's all a live service game. I mean, look, Grounded and Sea of Thieves, they're not even in 1.0 yet. These games have been out, 2 years or more?
Grounded's hitting year 2 this year.
And Sea of Thieves is 3 years? 4 years?
Something like that.
It hasn't even released yet. They're still technically version, they're not even 1.0 yet, right?
I think I could swear Sea of Thieves is 1.0, but
I'm pretty sure it is.
You couldn't quote me.
But they're taking early access was supposed to be you played something for 2 months and then the game was out. You were playing the alpha or the beta build. They're using it as an excuse to keep these games permanently in development. I don't get it.
It's a way to live service a game without calling it a live service.
Yeah. So it's meh. So that is Microsoft's end. And Bethesda, and again, there's some games that are coming that are good. We're all going to play the Forza. We're all going to try these games out. But there wasn't anything coming this year from Microsoft
that was just God, I have to.
I'll be honest, Halo multiplayer looks bad graphic-wise. It looks last gen again, and they're purposely not showing the single player. So when they say it's launching together in November, I'm still getting
that was for investors.
I'm still getting the feeling that we get multiplayer in November and we don't get single player till next year.
It wouldn't surprise me if they offer a multiplayer beta starting on Xbox.
Starting in November or something, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be tied into when the Xbox console launched. Then you will get everything by Christmas. That is my prediction.
Yeah,
that would be
especially since they're not going to be selling physical. They're really not going to sell physical copies even around Christmas for that game, even if it was available. They're just not going to because of Game Pass. They're not going to care about hitting that Black Friday window anymore.
Yep.
So moving on, Square Enix. Ugh.
Shut the fuck up.
We're getting high quality widescreen remastered pixel editions of the first 6 Final Fantasies to mobile and Steam.
And possibly consoles later, because
the screenshots show the Switch controller scheme.
Well, actually, that's an Xbox controller scheme. The right trigger, that's an Xbox.
I saw one of them. I thought that was the Pro.
There's
controller.
another screenshot that looks like a Switch button layout as well.
Yeah. So I mean, great. But
you
I
know
would've
what I walked away with from the entire Square Enix presentation?
Chaos.
Stole my burrito.
Yes.
Chaos, you asshole.
Oh, I played that demo. Fuck that game. Well, I'll get into that in a second.
They
First-
rushed that demo out. There's no doubt in my mind.
No, it's not about rushing the demo. The game shouldn't exist if this is what it's going to
The
do.
game shouldn't exist because it looks that bad, but
also,
if you
Eidos Montreal, please, I want your game to fail so you can go and make Deus Ex, but I also don't want your game to fail because that means you might get shut down. Because holy shit, does the Guardians of the Galaxy game look rough?
Yeah, like I am 90% sure that is running on the Avengers engine. I have a feeling this was meant to be part of Avengers in some capacity. Just a feeling. That's pure speculation.
Well, this was announced at the same time, I think, as the Marvel Avengers game years ago.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
And I'm an Avengers guy.
Yeah.
I would have remembered something like that. I mean, the thing is,
yeah,
with the Guardians of the Galaxy game, you're doing it before Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so there's no hype surrounding it right now at all.
You're not using any of the characters' likenesses, and I can't fucking understand that. They're all signed to multi-year deals for like the next 10 years. Why are they not using their likenesses? Nobody's going to be playing this game in 10 years. So it doesn't
going to be
matter.
playing this game in 3 months.
Yeah.
Well, this game will be on sale for sure.
I guarantee
after Christmas.
I guarantee you Disney is shooting Square in the foot. Disney is purposefully shooting Square in the foot because they signed this deal at least almost 10 years ago. They signed this deal almost 10 years ago, and as a result, these games have been in development for God knows how long, like 4 or 5 years, and Disney has shifted their entire outlook on games. Like it happened. We saw it with Star Wars last year. We're seeing it with Marvel this year. Like they are shifting their outlook on game properties.
Yeah, like it looks so rough. Like the frame rate looks terrible. This is all, and it's supposed to be playing on next gen. Frame rate.
It's also supposed to be playing on Switch, which obviously they're using Google Stadia servers.
Oh yeah, and this is sub 30 frames per second. All of the menus look like they're layered on top and don't blend in.
Well, the fact that you only control Peter Quill is kind of horseshit. And this tipped me off, too, to something in the demo. They showed nothing recognizable. They're on some random fucking planet fighting essentially what are giant amoebas. They're not fighting the fucking Nova Corps, the Skrulls, the Kree, or any number of the cosmic Marvel bad guys. There's nothing in this saying it's a Guardians of the Galaxy game other than here's a talking tree, here's a raccoon, here are people who could be Peter Quill's stunt double. This is a woman we painted green. You can call her Gamora. And this is Discount Value Village Drax. And fuck off.
And it looks like a PS3 game that they upscaled.
It's not Marvel to me.
It looks so bad. And the voice acting, atrocious. Every character sounds the same.
And we found one of the people that we talked to on Discord, we found out that's the cast of the animated series.
Wow, that's terrible. They were so much better.
I also double checked. Yeah, no, that's the cast of the animated series.
Wow.
If that's the cast of the animated series, they're bad at voicing those characters.
I think they just got really bad direction.
Yeah.
I don't know if I blame the actors.
But they all sound the same.
I usually don't blame the actors.
It sounds like one guy is doing all the male voices. That's how poorly
sound right.
That's how poorly cast it was. So moving on from that, we got a bunch of mobile games nobody cares about.
Yep. Nope.
And then we got nothing
Amico?
from Final Fantasy. Nothing from okay.
We'll talk about that.
Sorry, that was the highlight of Monday. We'll talk about that. But We didn't get Final Fantasy 16. We got nothing that was an exclusive title to Nintendo or to the PlayStation from Square. So we were left with multi-plat stuff, and Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins, which sounds like a knockoff Korean or Taiwanese game title that's like trying to sound like it's Final Fantasy. And what they showed off was that they seem to think they want to make Devil May Cry with their cool, hilarious, edgy characters, only they don't understand that game is very tongue-in-cheek, and they tried to make it serious.
Yeah, Dante is on purpose ridiculous.
Also, I'm gonna say, Alex, that's the Neo team doing this.
Yeah, and I've played Neo, and Neo's okay. I'm not a big fan.
Neo's
of
okay. It plays okay, but the way Neo looks, like
Neo looks better than this.
Neo looks way better.
This game, what they showed looked like something you would have seen in 2004 as a tech demo for what the PlayStation 3 could possibly do before they had even finished making the console.
Yeah, I think the big thing that I've seen with especially with like ray tracing and everything, people are noticing that, hey, you pushed ray tracing a lot, everything else in the game kind of suffers.
In some games, yeah.
Almost
all
the...
This game has none of that.
Yeah.
This game doesn't even have regular lighting.
It's pretty bad. It's like, pretty bad.
It was like the voice acting was so terrible, and it's clear they just got a bunch of random.
Also, how fucking how reflective is that final boss fight?
Well, just a second here.
The floor.
They were. It's like, hey, we got to make a trailer. Hey, Toshi. Hey, Sanjiro. You speak English, right? Can you just record some random stuff saying chaos? So it sounds like when they used to get people from The Office to do the voice acting in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And it's just chaos. Okay. I was like, I'll give it a shot. It looks like shit, but I'll give it a shot. I download the demo and find out that it's corrupted. So they released the demo, and the world downloaded it for PlayStation 5 only. And the world was immediately disappointed because they
couldn't play it.
They didn't check before they released it to see if it worked.
Yeah.
And this isn't a matter of, you open it and it crashes. You open it and it says your data is corrupted. And they fixed it, I think, a day later. I download a patch to install it, start playing it, and I'm greeted with being in a wheat field. And the wheat field is shimmering, like the effect of when you have like a analog camera and you point it at an analog TV and you get that Moire effect where it's like shimmering waves, like scan lines.
Yeah. It feels like you're in the opening of Gladiator.
Yeah. Only everything is pixelated and blurry, and you're supposed to walk through and go up to the orbs that have the tutorials. You can't see them because they're in the grass and it's all shimmery. So you do it. All the fighting controls are mapped to the R1 and L1 buttons. They're confusing the patterns you have to do with them. There's an input delay when you use it. I have seen a few YouTubers talk about, the gameplay's kind of fun. Fuck you. You have no idea what you're talking about, or you're just talking at your ass because you want to get views. At least even the people that I would normally say would be disingenuous about how good a game is to make it sound like it's better, even they're saying, the graphics look bad. It's like, it's the worst looking graphics I have seen in 15 years. We're talking bad levels of 360 design when everything was gray. Everything is brown and black and gray, and you go into everything has bad lighting. The AI for your companion characters, they're dead.
Is brain dead.
Like they get in the way and they hurt you, and
when you need them to do something, they do absolutely nothing.
Yep. And even on the easiest setting, a goblin can kill you in like 2 hits. and you're like, okay, so they're going for souls, but then they make you feel like you should be moving faster, like it's a Devil May Cry thing. It's an identity crisis in this game. They have no idea what they're talking about, and the game design is like PS1 or PS2. The level design, it's just
How many corridors can we walk through?
And everything is mapped. Picking up everything is mapped to pressing the center button on the controller, like the touchpad, but you have to touch and hold for 3 seconds before you pick up anything. Every individual piece of loot you have to press and hold for 3 seconds.
Yeah,
and you can miss it if you're not stepping on the right spot or not aiming to the right spot.
And that's also the control you have to do to revive.
Yeah, everything is tied to weird button presses that don't make sense. The job class system, switching on the fly, is kind of neat. But then it turns out, the controls are terrible for every character. the skill tree is just, ugh. And then you finally go and fight Chaos or Garland before he's Chaos, because it's revealed that it's Final Fantasy 1 retold or reimagined or something to that extent. And if you don't play it on easy, you're going to die basically 99% of the time. And when you beat him, it ends and gives you a survey to fill out, and I was scathing in my commentary on it. I wish there was more I could say. They are going to be very surprised with how bad the backlash is on this game. Some of the questions in the questionnaire were, it's all about, like, on a scale of like very good to very disappointed, but it's all questions about what did you think of the gameplay. And it's like they're very, from the questions, they seem very aware that people aren't going to like it. Like they like
it seems like this was built with an executive telling people what to do, and this is the developer saying, "Look, motherfucker, this is a disaster."
Yeah, like the survey was different from any other Square survey I've done, where the Square surveys are usually like, these parts of the game are done, we like these, but what could we do to make this part better?
Yeah,
a lot of the questions are, I don't know if you've seen what they are, because you have to have a PS5 to do it.
I haven't seen the survey.
Okay, the questions are very tuned to, what is your thoughts on this different style of gameplay? It's very leaning towards them thinking you're going to hate it, which I've never seen from a questionnaire like that. That's the vibe I got. And for a game that's supposed to be coming out next year, I told them in my comments, this game shouldn't come out. I personally would not release it ever, I said in the comment, because I don't think that the graphics, the gameplay, or the entire concept are thought out enough to make this a worthwhile game for your legacy. I said you probably will tarnish the brand releasing it like this. And then secondly, I said, and if you are going to polish it and change it, and you're really dedicated to releasing this should not come out for 3 years, not next year. Like it's like pre-alpha. It is the worst game I have ever played from a AAA company. And that's the demo. And I can't believe some people are giving it some praise online. It's like some people are delusional and have to like something because it's from a brand they like. But that's Final Fantasy, which we're not going to get a review copy, because even if we were on good terms with them, they don't really give out good copies of these kind of games when they know they're going to be bad. Because this is going to be the worst reviewed game in Square Enix history, I think, personally.
Well, I don't know.
So we're
what
gonna.
What about that game that came out a couple months ago?
Balan?
Yeah.
This is worse than that.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Having seen I didn't play this Strangers demo, but having played the demo of Balan, like, Balan's bad.
This Balan is a more complete vision than this.
Yeah, Balan actually had a vision.
So Monday, we can skip 99% of it and just say that Intellivision, who thought Intellivision Amico would be the best in show for Monday? Moving on. Then we had Nintendo, which we already talked about, so we don't need to talk about that too much. They saved the day with very little effort, really. I'm not.
Nintendo just had to show something.
Nintendo had to show up and say, Woo! Look, motherfuckers, we got something fun. And
I'm
that's
not
it.
sold on Metroid being a full price game, and
Dread,
not
really?
yeah.
I am.
Yeah, I think the Dread doesn't look amazing.
Yeah, to
But
me, it's not the graphics, it's not the size of the game, it's not the 2D thing that people are saying. To me, that trailer looked rough around the edges from an anti-aliasing perspective and a frame rate perspective. We'll see.
I think it'll run just as good as Samus Returns on a
Probably.
3DS.
Yeah. It's gonna run fine. I mean, honestly,
It's gonna run fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna run fine.
Metroid's a game they're not gonna fuck around with.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I'm happy for Metroid fans because they have been dicked over by Nintendo over and over again on anniversaries, and they finally get an anniversary game.
Now, I am going to pre-order this unless Alex gets us a copy.
I mean, I have it pre-ordered.
I
so.
did get the Amiibos pre-ordered, but I skipped the special edition because that's not worth it to me. And Nintendo's not one for doing special editions very often.
I pre-ordered the little Zelda handheld. I've got a place order on it, and if we get closer to it, and if you wanted it, Mike, we could do something like you pay for it.
Hopefully it'll be just as available as the Mario one, because the Mario one I still see in stores.
Well, remember, the Mario one pre-order sold out real quick, but then it ended up in stores. This one, the pre-orders haven't sold out, so I think they're producing more.
That's good,
because you're getting more in this than you did in the others. Now, we'll go into one little segment before we go into like what we thought maybe our top couple best or disappointed things were, sort of thing. I'm going to talk very briefly about the awards show.
I actually sat down and watched it.
I completely forgot it was happening.
It's 12 minutes of 3 people standing in front of a green screen.
Wow, that's fucking useless.
And there's going to be some shit that comes out of this. The awards appear to be given away to anybody that was just a sponsor. Like every single sponsor of E3 got an award category.
Yeah.
Or
anyone that actually showed up to E3, basically.
Yeah. So, overall, most anticipated game, Michael. Do you know what it is?
Forza.
Yes.
No. Oh, it is
Yeah.
Forza. Oh,
Forza Horizon 5.
Forza looks cool, but
wait. It didn't. Forza Horizon 5 is the overall most anticipated game of E3, but it wasn't the most anticipated Xbox title.
Yeah.
How is it not the most anticipated Xbox title if it's the most anticipated game?
Because it's coming to multi-platform. You can maybe make an argument.
No, it's not.
There.
No, it's not.
It's not coming to PC.
It is coming to PC, but like
that's multi-platform.
No, it's not. So is Halo, and Halo's listed as the Xbox title.
Marketing speak.
Most anticipated Capcom game. They showed nothing at the show, but apparently the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles is most anticipated. I
could see that.
It's most anticipated, even though Monster Hunter Stories is going to sell more.
Probably.
Yeah, it's got a bigger audience.
It's got a bigger audience, and on top of the fact the first one was very well received, and now it's on a console.
Gearbox Software, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, one of 2 games.
Literally the only thing that they showed.
Only thing that they showed with a date. Right?
Yeah.
Indie games, Falling Frontier. I didn't know this existed.
Yeah, I didn't know it existed.
Was this even shown at one of the indie showcases?
I think it was shown at like one of the last ones that we skipped.
In television, Asteroids, because it's 1980. How is Asteroids the most anticipated in television game when they also have the exclusive license to Earthworm Jim?
Hey man, don't talk shit about Shark or Burger Time.
I'm still interested in the television because I can't believe it exists and it looks weird to me. But Asteroids, not Asteroids, whatever random crazy new edition. Asteroids.
Yeah.
Nintendo, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild 2. Yeah, of course. So, the PC gaming show most anticipated, whatever that means. Songs of Conquest. Was that even shown?
I think it was in one of the montages.
Did that make an impact to anybody?
Didn't make an impact to me, I'll tell you that much.
Or was the parent company one of the booths that sponsored it?
Possibly.
Freedom Games, the tiniest publisher ever that showed about 5 games during a 10-minute segment, and they get their own award. Airborne Kingdom, which wasn't even the best looking game from the Freedom Games Showcase. That was Dark Deity, which I'm actually playing right now, which is the Shining Force style game. Future Games Show, Immortality. No idea what that is.
Immortality was the Her Story dev. Okay.
Again,
his next game. Yeah.
Do we Square Enix, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Suck all of the dicks. How is that not how is it not Life is Strange True Colors? Out of everything they showed from Square, that's the most compelling, complete game that isn't going to suck ass. Every other game they showed is going to suck so much ass. And that game, but no, Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, because they got Marvel budget sponsorship money. That's why. Ubisoft, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, of course. That was the best. Can you imagine if that was Avatar? There's nobody interested in Avatar 2, 3, and 4, which are coming apparently this year.
No, next year. They pushed it to next year.
It's Cameron's going to die before we get those movies. Xbox, Bethesda, Halo Infinite, Eureka Studio. Do you know what Eureka Studio is? A Chinese publisher that only publishes games in China. But Loopmancer, it was the best looking game that they showed. That was the one that actually looked like an actual Western developed game. Where it's like Kung Fu meets side scrolling meets other stuff. That was the awards. Do you remember when they used to do things like best graphics shown or all these? Nothing.
Here's the thing. This is not the normal E3 awards. This was a handful of outlets just giving awards away.
Now, interestingly,
this is not actual E3 awards.
And one of the things to note about these awards is, even if you signed up for the site that they asked you to do at the beginning of E3 and all that bullshit, you weren't asked for a vote.
I know. We were not asked for a vote.
That's horseshit.
In fact, 90% of the booths didn't work properly. None of the gamified reward system they talked about worked, even at the end. And the final award show thing, it ran for 10 minutes or whatever. Once that was over, they locked you out of all the booths and couldn't contact anybody.
Yep. So Merry Christmas, go fuck yourself.
They didn't even leave 24 hours after for you to get in contact with people. Now, I'll swear, the only good thing that came out of this is, one, I got to see how incredibly poorly managed it was. And the vast majority of press on there were some people, like I saw the Easy Allies and a bunch of other people from the older E3 days on there. It was about 90% South American journalists and media that signed up for E3. There was very little in North America that signed up, probably because they didn't want to deal with the ESA anymore.
That's because they doxed everyone.
Yep.
They still doxed people this year.
Oh yeah, it happens. The only other thing that came of it that was good was you get in. You can get some contacts early on with people that booths and that you might not normally be able to contact. So you might get some more contacts out of it. But it was horse shit this entire event. So let's. I don't even know if there's 3 games that we each like. I
have a couple.
I would say 3 that I personally am looking forward to is the Mario and Rabbids game. I'm looking forward to whatever happens if they end up moving those Final Fantasy games to the Switch instead of being on Steam and mobile. And my third is, ooh boy,
Far Cry.
Far Cry, probably.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't a whole lot else from anybody else shown. Maybe Tales. But again, these were not... If we're going with announced titles that were new, that we didn't know about from last year, Then my third would probably be nothing. Nothing. I have two new titles that I'm interested in, and one of them is a compilation of old games.
Looking at everything that was shown this year that I saw, I didn't watch every conference this year because I'm taking Alex's advice and fucking healing. I would argue for myself, I'd say Metroid Dread because it was not expected. WarioWare.
Oh, I'm stupid.
Far Cry.
I'm stupid. My third one is Advance Wars.
Yeah.
And what about yours there, Ken?
Okay, so I actually have my list here. The stuff that I immediately put money down to pre-order: Metroid, Elden Ring, Metroid Dread, Mario Superstars, which is the Mario Party that is what everyone's been wanting, and Advance Wars, and then I also put money on Hades because I want a physical copy of that. But I also have a handful of indie games that I'm going to keep an eye on. Happy Game.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird, cool things.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird, cool indies that I was like, all right, I will actually keep an eye out on this. Beacon Pines, I played that demo. I know 100% I'm going to be in tears by the end of that game. Holy shit. I was just like, oh, I'm going to cry at the end of this game, aren't I?
Oh, I guess an honorable mention, but again, we're looking at games. I was trying to think of games that are coming out this year.
Life is Strange is another one that I want to get.
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
I'm excited for it. That should be on my list, but also Replaced. That one.
Ooh, that looks good.
That's the 2D super stylistic like cyberpunk noir-y shooter fighter thingy bobber. Looks neat. But again, a lot of the games that look cool that I'm not mentioning is because they're 2022 games.
I would also mention Halo for me, because honestly, that's a game I'll beat the campaign in like 2 days. And if the multiplayer doesn't grab me, well, back to COD.
Yeah.
Which brings us into a final thing here, which is not usually we do like most disappointing, but here's a question instead of that. Let's talk about who wasn't there.
Activision didn't show off the new COD, but that's supposed to happen, I think, this week.
You think so?
That's the rumor that I've heard.
Or are they waiting for Sony?
No.
No, they'll do their own thing, and
they always do their announcements in June at the latest.
They do the announcement. They'll do the announcement, and then push the gameplay to Sony.
Yeah. So you think so?
You'll at least see a cinematic trailer soon.
Yeah, you'll see a cinematic trailer at Activision's thing, and then say, "Hey, Sony's got an event coming up. We'll show it there."
Yeah, like here's the first mission with 5 minutes of gameplay. It'll be kind of like last year where they showed off the first mission from Cold War when you're on the airstrip. They'll probably do something like that. Aliens Fire Team, and that's supposed to come out this summer.
Yep, nothing on that.
Now, GameSpot did do an interview with the team a couple days ago, but I scrubbed through it, and nowhere is there a release date mentioned.
And obviously, no Sony, which means no first party titles to show off there. Probably the most noticeable were the Final Fantasies and Forspoken. Anything to do with a Sony exclusive title, whether it be first party or third party from other companies like Square, completely absent.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only Sony title we saw was the director's cut of Death Stranding, and that's whoop-de-dee-doo.
That's mostly Kojima.
Yeah, and that's just because Kojima is friends with Jeff Keighley. Do you know they're friends? Because they like to talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
There was a lack of Activision, lack of that. There was I'm a little bit worried that Namco Bandai at their showcase showed one game, and it's coming to Game Pass, and had nothing to talk about with Tales. They showed off the Tales new trailer, but why did they not do a deep dive of it? Why did they not show off more? Also, Scarlet Nexus releases, I think, this coming week. And
they're burying that game.
And it was not shown at all.
I can see. I don't. If Microsoft hadn't paid for the marketing, Square would not have marketed this game whatsoever.
You mean Namco?
Or Namco, sorry.
Yeah, like it was shown off as like the first next gen title. I think they showed for the Series X back when they were announcing.
Yeah, because Microsoft is paying for the marketing.
And when I played the demo, I mean, it looked okay, you know, like, but it's one thing to not have like a gameplay thing where they show it off, but they didn't mention it as part of their lineup or showcase it at any showcase. There was no trailer or montage whatsoever, and it's coming out like a week after E3.
Yeah, it's coming. I think it's this Friday.
I think it's the 25th.
Okay, so next week, next Tuesday,
next Friday or Tuesday.
Oh yeah, next Friday is the 25th.
Yeah, something like that. And it's like that's like their only other big title till Tales, and it's nothing at all. There was nothing from Axis Games. There was nothing, and they usually have a mix of visual novel games and other things, but there was nothing to showcase from them. No, not even updated trailers. NAS America wasn't there at all showing anything. Any of the they've had a bunch of games already previously announced, and I think there was one title that was shown at one of the Indie Fest things.
Yeah,
that
there was one,
and it was done. It's the game where it has like, is it the same artist as the Persona games or something?
I think so. Yeah,
and that was it from them. A lot of the other Japanese, like you were saying, Japan was hit hard. There was nothing from Spike Chunsoft. There was very little from any of the medium or smaller size dev publisher studio combinations there at all. Like, and in their place was a lot of indie crap, like really like shovelware shit. We're missing some of the biggest games, like nothing from Final Fantasies at all.
I'm actually kind of surprised we didn't see anything from the Ubisoft Star Wars title.
They can't actually show anything until next year when EA loses their license.
They could have said something.
They could have said something, but I don't think legally they can show anything yet.
Yeah, and Ubi.
But Ubisoft is known for showing things years before it's supposed to come out.
Maybe they just didn't want to deal with that because we had enough teases already from other companies.
Yeah,
and also Disney has a stranglehold on that license.
And Warner had nothing. Back 4 Blood is not even their game; they're just publishing it.
Yeah.
There was nothing from NetherRealm, so had been rumors of a fighting game. Nothing from them.
If NetherRealm's going to show a new game, they'll do that at Evo.
It'll be Evo or Game Awards, one or the other.
Either that, or maybe the rumor of it being a DC related property is true. We don't see it till the Fandom in October.
That's possible.
That could be possible.
I mean, what is it going to be? Injustice 3?
That possibly.
It was the rumor was that or a crossover game.
I'd be okay with either, honestly, because it's not like we're getting any Marvel versus Capcom stuff anytime soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking Capcom fucked that right up.
They purposely didn't show anything to do with the Harry Potter game because they're letting that cool off.
Yeah, especially during Pride Month. Yeah,
we talked about that. But yeah, they were basically absent. There's nothing from the Lego game at all.
Which was supposed to come out over a year ago.
Yeah.
Honestly, they should just quietly release it.
Well, and it's also not a game that requires that much dev time. It's probably been done for at least a year. So there's that. Nothing from them on that front whatsoever. And then that leaves, basically this void of big company games that just nothing really coming, and everything is being crammed into September and October. Ubisoft has like 4 titles within 3 weeks.
Yeah, I opted not to pick up WarioWare because I'm like, I have too much going on in September. Because I've got Lost Judgment at the end of September, and then I've got Tales in the beginning of September.
Yeah, Sega there, and then Capcom showed dick all too. Like
just the Monster Hunter games and Phoenix Wright
games we already know existed. There was no new announcements, so they were basically
there was the DLC for Resident Evil Village, but you kind of guessed that was going to
that was a line of text that says we're working on something.
Yeah. Which I still haven't played that game, but I'm going to buy it like maybe next month or wait for a sale.
Wait for a sale. Wait for a
sale.
By then, any quirks will be worked out. So that's basically it. I mean, we're still waiting. Like, there's going to be stuff coming out. A lot of the European companies are running their own things. We're seeing that there's going to be, like, I guess to finish off here, there's going to be an event, I believe, in the middle of July.
Yeah, EA is doing their thing, I think, the 2nd or 3rd week of July.
So NIS America is going to be showing an English version of the Nihon Falcom 40th anniversary celebration live stream on June 24th. And that's where they're going to show off their games. That's why they didn't have really anything to show, because they're going to be doing stuff there. So they're doing their own special fancy thing. That's in 5 days as of this recording. So that won't be something we cover.
The 22nd is EA Play.
Yeah. Then we jump forward to July 6th is the Nacon Connect. That's the company that makes the controllers, that also bought a bunch of European devs. And they made the werewolf game that was actually pretty darn good that came out. Was it January I played that? Something like that.
It was like January, February, if I remember correctly.
February.
Yeah, it was something right around. Yeah. It was right around my birthday. So they have all their stuff they're going to showcase on their own. EA plays the 22nd. Then on the 29th, Annapurna is showing off stuff. They're doing their own Summer Games Fest thing. Gameplay reveals, new game announcements, and more surprises. They're one of those indie publishers that really started popping up out of nowhere in the last couple of years.
I mean, they worked with Limited Run to release the last 9 games, I believe, as a box set.
Yeah, and they're
all really good.
Well, the one thing that everybody wants to see from them is they're the ones that are putting out and developing and publishing that game where you play as the cat in the future, Stray.
Oh yeah, what the fuck ever happened to that game?
That's a PS5 exclusive, and that's probably what's going to be shown right around this time in July. Then you got QuakeCon and Gamescom, and that's the only other big announcements for the summer so far. But fully expect a Sony event to pop up sometime in the first week or two of July, because they're not going to want to wait till the end of summer to showcase what they've got coming for the fall. They're just not going to want to do that.
I could see them waiting till maybe first week of August. Maybe.
No. They want to be the only thing anyone is talking about that week.
Yeah, and if you look, the Nacon thing on July 6th is small enough that July 6th is a Tuesday. Does Sony have a specific day they usually run their stuff?
Yeah, but didn't the original PlayStation come out in August?
Yeah,
but it's not an anniversary.
Last year was an anniversary year.
Yeah, last year was the 25th, right?
Yeah.
I would say if we don't hear anything next week about something happening at the end of the month, we're probably going to see a Sony Direct the week of the 11th, somewhere between 11th and 17th, because they're going to want to do it before EA, and they're going to want to do it before August, because they've got nothing announced to come out over the rest of the summer at all.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing, like zero. There are zero Sony published titles. Actually, they don't have a date for anything, even going into like the holiday season.
Yeah, like Horizon doesn't have a date. That's another thing. Like what worries me about Halo is it didn't get dated.
Just this
Starfield got dated, and Halo didn't get dated.
So Sony, now that we've got Ratchet and Clank out, they quite literally have zero things on the slate, and that's never happened. Like even when we were waiting for the PlayStation 5 to come out.
That just proves the effect of COVID had on the gaming industry last year.
I have a feeling whenever they announce their next presentation, we're going to get one summer game and one fall game dated, and everything else will be up in the air.
Yeah. Horizon will be the fall game, guaranteed.
And we might get something
smaller.
Maybe that Stray game. Maybe they'll announce it. They're saying we got a date for it, or they won't shadow drop it, but maybe they'll announce the date for that, at that Annapurna event for the fall or something too. So they'll have like an indie title come out, but there's going to be some title that has to come out this summer, and I think it might be from not a third party, but a smaller studio within Sony. Like how we got Dreams or Concrete Genie and then there was remember the Medieval game came out and that was sort of a smaller budget. There's going to be something like that, or we're going to see something like, hey, here's a Resistance remaster trilogy. Here's a trilogy of something else we can put out. Or the other announcement could be, hey, we're doing a Game Pass type situation with PlayStation Now, or some sort of backwards compatibility thing. They got to have something. They're not going to go an entire quarter without anything, because we're in a new quarter and they've got nothing.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out.
Yep.
So I guess as we wrap this up, 30 seconds each, E3 in a nutshell, starting with you can go.
This E3 was a clusterfuck, and it's pretty clear that the ESA has no idea what the hell they're doing.
Okay. For my 30 seconds, this was a very uneventful year for me personally. There just wasn't a lot that I really cared about, and that could come down to a lot of my health issues, just kind of taking my focus away from gaming. But this year, I felt more disconnected from my industry than I ever have in years. Being treated differently by the press and the companies themselves have certainly taken an interesting toll on how me and Alex do coverage. And it's just not, I don't know, there's just something that just didn't wow. There was no thing where I was screaming up and down, happy. I didn't get my moment of joy that I get every E3. And this was just not my year. Alex?
You could have summarized you could have taken everything, cut out all the fat, and retained 3.5 hours of streaming shows in total over the course of the week, and I would have been happy. Everything could have been contained in a one afternoon announcement, and it would have been much better. Instead, we got a steaming pile of shit, and I was screaming, but at how horrible some things were. And this was weird. As much as this was the most consistent and best E3 presentation that Microsoft has had in 10 years, and this was actually the most liked and watched Nintendo Direct, I think, in at least 10 years as well, as for what they've, or not that they've been running Directs that long, but their most well-received presentation in that length of time as well.
In the last, at
least
years.
It's actually the most liked Nintendo Direct ever. I looked up all the stats. It has the most percentage of likes to dislikes out of any of them, and that's probably just because of fatigue from how bad the rest of the other stuff was. But taking those things into account, this is still the worst E3 they've ever done. This is worse than the E3 that didn't exist last year. Wow. Because last year we had the amazing the two Sony presentations, where one we had all the crazy console releases. Like the reveal for the console was amazing. And then the second follow-up one where they revealed Final Fantasy 16.
Well, if you want to hear Alex talk more about E3, you can do that by listening to him on Nerd to the Third Power, the show I'm hopefully rejoining next month when I get myself sorted out. So he'll be talking about that with Dr. Gonzo, Skyblaze, and, well, they're really the gamers of the podcast outside of myself. So be sure to be listening for that coming up on the site this week. Is there going to be a regular news show this week? We don't know. Is there going to be a Turtle Treasure? Yes.
Can I say right now? Probably not.
Probably not. It's been a week.
Because this way, if I say it now, I don't have to do it.
Yeah, it's been a week, folks. So, E3 takes a lot out of the team. Alex has been shouldering the burden of TWIG like a champ. And he'll get some time off in August, and then I'll take over the show for a while.
We have some products we want to talk about that we've been receiving for review, so we want to get that out. But I don't necessarily have the energy or the voice to do another solo news show until at least next week.
Yeah,
there'll be content released on the Monday. Next week, we'll see how that works too. But there's still going to be stuff coming out. It's just also not been a very news eventful time other than gaming, and we've basically been doing like 7 gaming shows in the last week. So
yeah,
almost 10. With this, it'll be like 9 hours of podcasts.
So stay tuned for that. Coming up from myself, I'm going to be doing more reviews on the show as I work up towards my surgery in July. And then as soon as I'm recovered from my surgery, I'm back on the show. So me and Alex will have lots to talk about. We'll have Ken on the show. We're going to hopefully get a lot of things done this summer for the show as we launch into the fall, which should hopefully be fairly busy. Gaming and RPG wise and movie wise, it's going to be a good year. So anyway, guys, until next E3, we have been
Alex, the producer,
and Ken,
and I've been Mike the Birdman saying, be excellent to each other and wear your mask and get vaccinated. We'll catch you guys again next time right here on This Week in Geek.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.